Hello everyone. So it's the second time I am doing a Q&A audio, and I wanted to change things a little bit with the background, just to create a nice ambience with music and rain. Let me know what you think. So here we are, 4,000 of you. I can't believe it. I know. I say that at every milestone, but I still can't wrap my mind around the idea that my recordings are being enjoyed by other people. And so many of you. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here, for your support, your kindness, and your presence. Every comment, every listen, every interaction means the world to me. It really does. Creating these stories is something I really love, but knowing that they resonate with you, that they either bring comfort, joy, or just a little escape, it makes it all so much more special. So again, thank you for being part of this journey. Whether you've been here since the beginning or just found this space, I'm grateful that you're here. Now, it's Q&A time. Thank you so much to all of you who asked questions. I'll add timestamps with your names so you can easily find the answer to your questions. If you don't want to listen to the whole thing, that is. And one more thing. I will probably butcher your names. So if I do, I am so sorry. Here we go. And the first question is from James Griffin, 7962. If we could visit your favorite place in the world at any point in time, where and when would we go? Gosh, so many places come to mind. Right now, I would love to be in my home village, by a lake, looking at the mountains. It's certainly cold at the moment, with snow at the top, but I'm sure that with hot tea and a few biscuits, it can be a great time. Just chilling, enjoying the moment and the landscape. Yeah. Thank you very much for your question, James. Next we have AhhFa. Do you have a favorite type of roleplay scenario? I don't know. Do I? I guess it will depend on my mood, but I do tend to enjoy darker themes and settings more than a happy slice of life story, for example. Supernatural elements are also a favorite of mine. Sci-fi, of course. As long as the story is interesting, with small details that really give it life and realism, you can't go wrong, I think. Thank you for your question. Let's see. Enrique Alvarado, 9938. What is your favorite genre of fiction? Easy. Sci-fi. That's definitely my favorite. I do read other stuff, don't get me wrong, but I have a soft spot for sci-fi, for how it can reflect on today's society, asking the right and difficult questions on how we live, where we're going, so on and so forth. Also, I do love the golden age of sci-fi. Has a retro futuristic feel to it that I find really charming. Second question from you. What motivated you to make audio roleplays? Well, It's not going to be a fancy answer, but I guess boredom. And also, I wanted to challenge myself to work on a long-term project, which I'm succeeding in because this channel is more than a year old and I managed to stay consistent with my posting. So, short answer, I started this channel because I was bored and I wanted to undertake a long-term project. Thank you for a question. Next, from Overlord 99762. What food do you like most? I'm a sweet tooth, so anything sweet really. Cakes, cookies, muffins, pastries, with chocolate in it, if possible. And why are you French? Gosh. I'm asking myself the same question every single day. Who knows? Life coincidences, I guess. Next, we have GenKurosaki. If you could meet any character of your choosing, fiction or otherwise, who would it be? Well, I read a lot, so this one is tricky. But from the top of my head, I'd say maybe Gandalf and Christian Avasarala from The Expanse. Thank you for your question, Gen. Next is from Lastsonoftanith. Lastsonoftanith. What is a genre of audio roleplay that you haven't explored yet but would like to? Well, I have no idea. I guess I've pretty much covered all the genres I like already. But maybe... So, I am really bad at coming up with slice of life stories. I always need to add like some kind of dark or supernatural element if I'm not writing about science fiction. But something realistic in today's world with a nice and happy story, that's tough because I'm so bad at it. So maybe I would love to come up with some stories like that. Would you like it? Next question is from Biasemias. Where in the world would you like to visit vacation to? Not without thinking too much about it. Japan. I've been there 3 times, but I would love to go back. Also, Scotland. I loved it there. And New Zealand, though it's literally on the other side of the world, so a very, very long trip. Second question from you. Do you have a favorite creator? I do, yes, but I guess it depends on what they do, right? I'll say that you want to know about other roleplay creators. So first one that comes to mind are Critical Role. Granted, they're all professional voice actors, so their content is always top-notch. But the imagination they all have, it's amazing, for lack of better words. And also, I really like Moonlight Cottage ASMR. I find her work to be extraordinary. She puts so much effort and work into her videos and stories. I love it so much. I really admire her a lot. Thank you for your question. Next up, we have AlmightyJeod. Will you make a French girl next door friendship ASMR? So I guess this one relates to my previous answer on the slice of life genre. Inevitably, I would probably have to add something dark or supernatural to it to make it more interesting to me. But I could also try to make it more realistic. I'm sure I'll be able to pull it off, but I need to think about it. A great creator who knows how to make those impeccably is Lavender. If you don't know her channel, I highly recommend you go check it out. Next questions are from Blake Shineful. What is your main source of inspiration for creating these narratives? All the content I consume, I think. Books, video games, TV shows, movies. Music also helps a lot with creative process. I think music will probably help me more with creating an ambience, but sometimes it can also spark a whole story. So yeah, all the content I consume. Follow-up question. You embody so many different characters in your videos, all with very distinct personalities. Do you feel like at the end of a video that you can relate to them and understand them on a deeper level, even if their personality is the complete opposite of yours? So I think that all my characters have a part of me in them, even if just a small drop. But you can't really escape it. When you create something, you can't escape the fact that you put a bit of yourself in your creation, no matter what it is. So, yes, I do understand the characters I come up with, even if they are, I don't know, extroverts, which I'm not, or just bad people, which I try not to be. Thank you very much for these questions, Blake. Next we have Patrick Rogers, 9689. What would you say are your primary sources of inspiration, if any? So, as I said in the previous set of questions, any content I consume. The books I read, the stuff I watch, the game I play, the music I listen to. There's not just one source of inspiration. Of course, I lean more towards certain genres, but everything can inspire me, I think, really. Do you do any kind of dedicated research for your period pieces? That's a very interesting question. And the answer is yes, I do. Usually, I start writing the story, and it's when I need to add details that I start doing the research. For example, the World War I AshMothAudio, I had the whole story in my mind already, but I wanted to make sure that I wouldn't say something irrelevant or use technology that wasn't available at the time. So I had to dig a bit deeper regarding prosthetics and surgery in those years. What kind of material was used, how long would it take to create something, who made it, where, etc., etc. And that's a process I really like because it's so interesting, but it also takes more time to write about. Thank you very much, Patrick. Next, we have camiloCapp. Top 3 favorite songs, bands, or singers. So, songs from the top of my head. Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult. Then Black Betty by Ram Jam. And let's add a little bit of Lemmy in the mix with Smiling Like a Killer by Motorhead. These are some of my favorite songs, not my all-time top 3. Then we have Wind Reader Oh, hello, Winrida. If you didn't do ASMR RP on YouTube, but still wanted to run the channel, what content would you make? Oh, that's easy. I would have a video game channel. Probably more focused on indie games than mainstream ones. But yeah, a video game channel. I actually really want to make it come true, but I do not have enough time, no energy. So maybe someday, who knows? Another question from you. If you could forget one book just so you could read it for the first time all over again, what would it be? Tricky. I don't know. Let's say Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. Thank you very much for your questions, Winrida. Next up, RatedNext. Oh, hi. You mentioned once that sci-fi is one of your favorite genres. What's your all-time favorite sci-fi story? Oh gosh, another favorite. These questions are so hard because there's so many genres of sci-fi, subgenres, so many books. Picking just one feels like letting down others. But if I had to pick just one, I'd probably say the novel City by Clifford Simak. Next question. I've always been impressed by how good your English is. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. When did you start learning the language? So, I've started learning English in middle school all the way through uni, so for around 10 years or so. And then I had the chance to live 1 year in England to improve the language. But there's no magical way to learn a foreign language, I'm afraid. Practice makes perfect, as they say. Not that my English is perfect, far from it. So I try to read as much as I can in English, watch TV shows and movies in English, read news articles in English as well, listen to English podcasts, etc., etc. Third question. About how long does it take you from start to finish to write, voice, and edit an audio? All right. So if everything goes according to plan, and believe me, it doesn't most of the time, I think about the story on Thursday. Then I think in more details about it on Friday. I write the script on Saturday morning and then I record on Sunday morning. Writing takes me from 1 to 3 hours, depending on the plot, and if I prepare the story enough inside my head, or if I make big changes at the last minute, which happens a lot. Recording takes me approximately the same time as the audio lasts, and the editing less than an hour, again, depending on how elaborate the audio is. Thank you very much for your questions, RatedNext. And next we have BenTulanowski. Would you do more of the World War-based role plays? Of course, I would love to. The tricky part about those and any historical pieces is that it demands more work than other types of audios, because I need to do research and make sure everything is as historically accurate as possible and also realistic. But historical role plays, especially those set in the 20th century, are tricky in another way also. Because as a woman, I only play female characters. I I can't do a man's voice, even if I try really, really hard. And during this time period and others, there's not that many roles a woman could have. So, for example, in World War roleplays, I would only be a nurse, a spy, a member of the resistance, or I don't know, random woman fleeing an occupied territory. What I mean by this is that there is not that many roles I can play if I want to stay historically accurate. So I can't be with a soldier in the trenches, for example. So that means that the stories would look too much alike and at some point just bore the audience to death, which I don't want to do. So I need to think even more about these stories than others to create original and entertaining. But of course, I'm going to do more of them in the future. Next questions are from Nuggetbox9245. Would you consider making a series about your previous roleplay audios? A series. So the problem I have with them is that I am not preparing my stories to have sequels. What I mean is, I need to think of a larger and longer story to split it into a number of episodes to make it entertaining and worth listening to until the end. What I'm doing now is trying to make the story as open as possible for a potential sequel if the audience enjoys it. But then it takes me time to come up with ideas, how to develop the story, etc. So actually, I really need to work on longer stories, which is something I really want to try and do. Another question, is the accent real? All right, should I take this the wrong way? Yes, my accent is real. I can try and thicken my French accent even more, but it doesn't feel natural to me. No, I am really French and I do speak like this in English. My intonation changes from one character to another, or at least I try to, but that's it. And last question from you. How do you feel about the rise of audio roleplays in YouTube in general? Well, I think that my answer is going to be disappointing, but I don't really care. Or I should say, I don't have an opinion on the matter. If people want to create things, share it with others. If that makes them happy, then perfect. The more the merrier, right? Thank you for your questions. Then we have rangerecho. Do you play D&D or are you interested in it in any way? So, I never played the tabletop RPG D&D, but I've played a lot of video games inspired by it, such as the Baldur's Gate series, just to name this one. I wish I had people to join for a campaign of D&D, but I also have to find more time for it, which is probably the hardest part. But I've played my fair share of Vampire the Masquerade back in the day, and I really loved this tabletop RPG a lot. Thanks, rangerecho. Next question is from MonsterDude1552. With some of your sci-fi videos having a tragic romantic vibe, is that a more interesting roleplay than most, or just a personal favorite? Interesting question. I'd say that I always lean, or often lean, towards darker themes, more tragic stories, because it's what I like writing about. And it's probably what my imagination is more filled with, actually, because of all the content I consume. So to answer your question, it's interesting to write about it, and at the same time, it's a personal favorite. Next question is from Christian Calliope 8834. Oh, hi, Christian. What first got you interested in ASMR, or what inspired you to give it a try? So, I'm not sure I'm doing ASMR. I wanted to in the very beginning, but I quickly found out that I'm really bad at it. And my stories are not all super comforting or relaxing, so I'm not sure it really works out with ASMR. But what interested me in roleplay audios is the ability to write short stories through dialogues and create atmospheres and ambiances that catch listeners' attention and imagination. Thanks for your question, Christian. Then we have questions from Joko D. Haynes 419. Hello, Joko. Any chance you do more World War I and World War II audios? Absolutely. As I said a little bit earlier, this type of audios demand more preparation time, and I do not want to come up with only a nurse character, for example, so I need to think longer about them than other types of audios. But I definitely want to do more. Another question from you. The anniversary of the Battle of Verdun is coming up soon. Any chance you can do an audio based on the brave defenders of Verdun? So for days like these, related to wars, it's tricky because I want to make the roleplay as historically accurate and realistic as possible. So I won't be able to place my character in the battle, for example. And again, I don't want to bring another nurse to the mix, or it will bore people and me, frankly. So I won't do a dedicated audio for that, but I might take inspiration for future historical audios, for sure. Oh, another one from you. Mermaids, sea ponies, and horses are my lucky creatures. What are yours? What's my lucky creature? I don't know. Sea otters and black cats? Thank you for your question. Next we have Fearengate. Oh, привет. I'm really curious about your process of creating video from start of the idea to uploading it here. So I said a little bit about it earlier, but I can develop here. If everything goes according to plan, again, that's very important, I already have an idea by Thursday. That day, I think about it, I try to come up with an interesting story and characters. On Fridays, I keep thinking about it, and I also add details. And sometimes from one day to the next, I can completely change the story. For example, the Stay Still, I'll Hear You audio, I wanted it first to be funny and lighthearted, with characters teasing each other, etc. But then I rethought my elf character and wanted her to be more serious, more motherly as well, in a sense. So it changed the whole dynamic and the story as well. Then I write the script on Saturdays. It can take from 1 to 3 hours, depending on how good I prepared myself. And I record on Sunday mornings and edit just after recording, if I have time. And again, this is all if everything goes according to plan. If not, then I stretch the thinking part until Tuesday. I record on Tuesday, I edit on Tuesday evening, of course, and I pray to the roleplay gods that my story is good enough. Another question from you. What is your favorite bakery product? This one is easy. First is pain au chocolat and then éclair à la vanille. Where would you like to travel? I think I talked about it earlier as well. So Japan, Scotland, and New Zealand. Which of your stories you'd like to experience or live beside? Well, I guess there's not that many because some are quite scary, but the magical library, that one for sure. What inspired you to create such unusual stories? So, to me, they're not unusual. I just try to make them a little bit original so it's interesting to listen to. But as I said earlier, I am inspired by all the content I consume: books, TV shows, movies, games, music, etc. Then I just blend everything inside my head, and sometimes I come up with an interesting story to tell. Спасибо большое за вопросы. Спасибо. Next we have the Smiling Dead Guy 2888. Oh, hey, the Smiling Dead Guy. What's the best way, in your opinion, to stick with a creative idea? Like, how do you keep it fresh in your mind so it doesn't fade away before you can really make it work? That's an interesting question. So from September of last year, I decided to always write my scripts down because just keeping them inside my head would drive me crazy. Because I would have to remember every detail up until recording day, and that was not possible at some point because I would obsess too much about a story, and I hate that. So writing things down really helps. Plus, it gives the advantage to be able to come back to the story, change it, add details, really work on it. At least it's easier than doing it inside my head. Thank you for your question, the Smiling Dead Guy. Then we have LegendaryKiemon. Do you play video games? If yes, what is your favorite game? I do play video games, and a lot, well, when I have time again. So my favorite, I always answer Mass Effect, the Mass Effect trilogy, to this question. And it's one of my favorite games. But there's so many games, and so many I loved. So another one would probably be The Secrets of the Golden Idol and the sequel, The Rise of the Golden Idol. They are fabulous games, in my opinion. Thank you for your question. Next, we have a question from Deeayenn. Oh, hi, how are you? A childhood memory which means a lot to you. Either a one-time thing, something experienced in a particular season every year, or something you would do weekly every month, for example. I don't think I have one particular childhood memory, but rather a place, and that's my childhood home. I loved it so much, and I was so sad when we had to move. I have so many great memories there, and sometimes when I'm back in my home village, I go back there to just look at the house, and it makes me feel so nostalgic. Next question from you. There's only so much a voice alone can tell you. Any body art, piercings, favorite jewelry, that kind of thing. Well, I am made of shadows, so I can't really have tattoos nor wear jewelry, right? Next question. This came to me suddenly the other day. Does anyone outside of your channel know that you do this? I think that only my best friend knows. I'm actually quite protective, possessive of the creative stuff I do. I do not share it with people I know because it's very intimate and I wouldn't want to talk to them about it, I think. It's weird. I'm creating content elsewhere as well on literature, and it's the same thing. Not many people know about it, and those who do are not interested in it. so they do not read my stuff. Following question. Have you heard of GenKurosaki? If so, what are your thoughts? So I've never heard of it before reading your question, and I took a look at it, and it seems like so much fun. Though it also seemed to demand a lot of time, like Warhammer. I would love to have an army, paint the figurines and all, but I don't have time, I don't have space, nor the patience, I think. But GenKurosaki seems great. And final question. Would you like to open a channel membership or Patreon or the like? That is interesting because I've been thinking about it for a while now. So first, I have to say that I do not want to monetize my channel or my work. It's a hobby of mine, and if I start receiving money either from the platform or you chaps, it will put too much pressure on me to create content, etc. And if I do this, I will probably crumble at some point. So I prefer to keep it as is. That being said, I do not think YouTube is made to cater for conversations and interactions within one community, or if it is, it's really, really bad. So I would love to maybe find a space where those who want to could come and discuss different topics. I know that Patreon allows a free tier, but I'm not sure it's made for patrons to really interact with each other. So maybe Discord? I don't know. I really need to look into it and also get your opinion on the matter. Thank you so much for all your questions. Next we have dylansepper. Do you have a favorite audio that you have done? Of course. A more recent one would be the Magical Library. And I also really love the character dynamic between the vampire and the hunter in the Old Friend series. I'm calling it that now. Next question. Is there a chance that you may do any series on past audios, for example, World War I prosthetics nurse audio? So I said this earlier, but I do not think my stories as potential series, but rather one-shots with an open narrative so I can add sequels if it's enjoyed. I really want to try and come up with series, but to do that I need to think bigger and come up with longer stories. For the World War I-ness, I need to think of something interesting because I just don't want her to heal the patient, talk a little and scene. I want to add something more interesting to the mix, but it demands more reflection time and research as well. Is there any kind of audio you wouldn't do? Sure. The spicy ones, I guess, come to mind. I'm just not interested in them, and frankly, I do not think that I'll ever be able to come up with interesting plots for them. Last question from you. What do you love the most about doing audio roleplays? I guess the whole process is very interesting, but what matters the most to me, I think, is coming up with the stories. That's what I enjoy the most. Thank you very much for your questions, Dylan. Next we have AuraXv. Oh, hi Aura. What is one video game or any piece of media, really, you would like to play and witness the story of again from fresh eyes? Basically, as if you have never experienced them. Well, Mass Effect would be again my go-to answer, but I've replayed this game so many times that even with knowing the plot and the different ends, it still grips my soul every single time. So I'm thinking more of a game that cannot be replayed or not really. And Return of the Obra Dinn comes to mind, as well as The Rise and the Secret of the Golden Idol. Another question for you. We all adore your French accent. Oh, thank you so much. But hypothetically, if you could master any one accent instantly, which would you choose and why? So, I can speak Russian, but for the love of me, I cannot do a proper Russian accent. So I guess that, and also a proper English accent as well. Thank you for your questions, Aura. Then we have Stevenoy 3360. What do you enjoy the most about Russian literature? Oh God, I could go on for hours about this. So first, I guess it speaks to me on a deeper level because I was brought up listening to Russian folk tales and literature. And when I say literature here, I speak of classics from the 19th and beginning of 20th century. So there's personal, almost intimate closeness with Russian literature and myself. Then there's the literature in itself. The classics are full of despair and darkness. Russian authors are not tender with their characters, far from it. And this, mixed with the religious aspect that itself blends with superstition that stems from Slavic folklore and mythology, it gives you a very deep and again dark literature. Even when the authors try to be funny, like for example with Gogol, there's always this layer of melancholy, of anxiety somewhere. And all this appeals to me a lot. I found it really fascinating. I'm not sure everything I said makes sense. I hope it does, but I could really speak about this topic for hours. Another question, do you have a favorite board game and or one you've played recently that you've really enjoyed? So I have a lot of board games, and one of my favorites would probably be Forbidden Stars. It's set in the Warhammer 40k universe, and the games are always super long, but it's a lot of fun. And last question from you. Is there any branch of philosophy or religious doctrine that you have found helps you live your life better or helped you find your place in the world? God, I was dreading this question. All right, so I am really not the best person to ask this question because to this day, I still struggle a lot with existence in general. I get by, of course, but some days are really, really tough. Plus, I am really pessimistic. My views on life and the world in general are far from bright and full of hope. So, to answer your question, I'd say I try as much as possible to see life this way. We have one chance at it. Don't fuck it up. Be nice. Try to be happy. And don't hurt others. My problem would be that I take life way too seriously. So I really need to take a step back sometimes and just see it like I'm going to die anyway. So I should rather enjoy the ride and do good around me. As long as it lasts. Thank you for your questions, Steve. Then we have Rogan Chapman 5700. What book are you reading at the moment, or favorite book? Right now, I am reading a French classic, well, rereading it really, and it's called Une vie, a life, by Maupassant. It's a big name in French 19th century literature, and one of my favorite French authors, I think. Next, we have Mischief Work. Oh, hi, Mischief. If you were given godlike powers like Bruce Almighty, what would you do? So either teleportation, mind reading, or invisibility. I know you ask just one, but 3 will do, right? Thanks for your question. And last but not least, AshMothAudio. I'm a huge fan of your thumbnail and video designs. Well, thank you, and I guess you should thank Midjourney for that. What's your design process for coming up with them? Do you ever have the idea for the title thumbnail before you even start with the script? So when it comes to the pictures, I need to generate them before writing my script because it helps me visualize my character. And so some pictures help me with the plot. For example, the audio with Barista Psychopomp. The image has ravens on it. I wasn't planning on adding crows to the story, but when I saw it, I thought that it would be a great idea to add them actually. As far as the titles go, I either put a line my character says or something that might catch the listener's attention, pique their curiosity. And your last question, I'm also a huge fan of your voice. Oh well, thank you. You wouldn't happen to be open to collabs? Well, I've never done collabs, so that might be interesting to try, though I'm not sure how it would work, and also it will depend on the story, of course, but I'm not close to the idea at all. Well, that's it, chaps. Again, thank you for the questions, and most importantly, thank you for being here. I wish you all a pleasant weekend, and I'll see you next week.